Should I start?
Yes, please, please.
Subramaniam, please introduce our speaker first.
Yes. Greetings to everyone. I am Subramaniam. First of all, thank you to Dr. Durlabh Singh Kowal for accepting our request to deliver the webinar on transition to transform from student life to job applicant. And we are very glad to meet you, sir, here. And I want to give brief bio of Dr. Kowal. At present, Dr. Kowal is a scientist in DRDO and also a member of Services Selection Board, Bhopal, as a psychologist expertise in personality assessment through projective test battery. And also he has 18 years expertise in the field of screening and personality assessment, where he having assessed more than 10,000 candidates for stability in the Indian Armed Forces as an officer rank. He has also published 21 research papers in various national and international journals, and he has been founder, life and term member of various psychological associations and academies. And other research interests of Dr. Kowal includes development and validation of psychological tests like situational judgment test, handwriting analysis, and forensic graphology, environmental psychology and ecosensory intelligence. He completed his educational qualification and doctorate from University of Rajasthan, Jaipur. And he has been actively involved in the training of officers of various government agencies like Army, Navy, Coast Guard and DRDO for personality assessment. Now I request Dr. Kowal to start the talk. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Subramaniam. Thank you. A very good evening to all. I'm here to present you a webinar on the transition to transform from the student life to job applicant. And my presentation's overview is that I will be discussing about the state of job applicant, then what is transition and what are the career choice, what is proactive behavior, what are the characteristics of the selection process, and the common symptoms of anxiety faced by the job applicants, what is the role of personality, and I will be discussing the axis of transition and transformation and the hurdles in the transformation. What kind of a performance are needed for a job applicant, and finally I will be discussing what is emotional maturity with some suggested study presentation. Since everybody knows that what is a student life, and there is a great significance of a career choice in the student life. The student always seeks for a career in his or her life, and there are a lot of factors involved in the career choice. Through career choice, the student find as a task or a piece of work, especially one that is paid. And from that, the person becomes a job applicant, which is a proud and a challenging state of an individual to attain eligibility for a job. There are many individuals who are not able to attain that eligibility for a job. Those who are able to attend, they should feel proud and they should feeling of greatness in them. When they become a job applicant, the academic achievements versus personality always play a role in that. When there is eligibility, then there is a minimum qualification needed, the academic achievement. That can be kept as a constant for all. For example, a graduate with 60% or maybe more, that will be the QR for the job applicant. But there is no threshold of personality, it always varies. So academic achievement can be kept at a constant level, that everybody tries to attain that with certain achievements. But the personality, that always varies. So when a student chooses a career, there are a lot of factors involved in that, in which personality is one of the most important factor in their career choice. The context in which an individual lives in also decides the career choice. The aptitude, education, family occupation. Many choose their career choice, whatever their family is carrying on, and the intellect of the person, ability of the person, and what are the job opportunities available in the current scenario in the country. That's also decide the career choice. Now transition from student life to job applicant, SL to JA. It's a quest that is self-created. It is not induced by anybody else. Always as students want to become a job applicant, want to get a job, and it is a very dynamic quest. It's not a passive step. Dynamic means it's a challenging one. One has to keep evolving during this transition, and that is a very crucial part of the life. This transition may be a dream for somebody, maybe a passion, maybe an aspiration. For somebody, it is a requirement, and for somebody, it is a routine affair. They keep on transiting. And for somebody, it is a wonderment. They keep on switching here and there, and they are not able to find out where they want to go or how they want to transit. And for somebody, it is a risk taking. Without knowing anything, they jump into a transition and choose a career which they are not aware of. And for few people, it is a proactive behavior. That should be one. The transition is always we should try to keep it as a proactive behavior rather than all the things I have shown to you. Let's discuss what is proactive behavior. Proactive behavior of a person, of an individual, is a deliberate or an anticipatory action towards a goal achievement, to realize one's career goal. Then only it can be called as a proactive behavior. It includes the cognitive aspects. Cognitive aspects is defined by the planning and organizing the things to realize one's career goal. When we say it is a deliberate and anticipatory action, for this, one person has to plan and organize the career and develop insight into one's own career aspiration, what an individual wants to become. That part is covered in the cognitive aspect of the personality, and the behavioral part of the personality of the proactive behavior says that it is a regulating capacity or a controlling power. That means the actions with the aim of pursuing and managing one's career. One should be very focused and regulate the behavior, control the distractions, and direct the action with the aim of managing or achieving the one's career that has been decided by self-quest. That is a proactive behavior. Many people don't show proactive behavior in this transition and suffers in the transition period. When they transit, they have to face a selection process. So first of all, we have to understand what are the characteristics of a selection process. It is highly evaluative. This setting of selection process, whenever a job applicant submit oneself into the process of recruitment and selection, the environment is highly evaluative. It's a competitive situations. A group, a bunch of people are competing to get that job. It evokes feeling of anxiety, frustration, and distress. Everybody is not able to achieve the things what one is aspiring for. So simultaneously, when a person is submitting into the selection process, automatically it evokes a feeling of anxiety, frustration, and distress. And obviously, the stake is involved that whether you will get a job or not, that will decide the future life. It also induces an experience of threat to own sense of identity and survival. Many people attribute their failure and the success with their sense of identity. When they fail, they lose their sense of identity and goes into the depression also. And it's not like that. Sometimes the failure is a stepping stone to the success also. Threat of losing sense of identity when one is going through the selection process. The environment not only sought for test anxiety but also treat anxiety. The environment of selection process, obviously one has to appear on some tool, maybe interview or maybe on paper pencil test or maybe some other test. So there is always a test anxiety along with the trait anxiety. Trait anxiety is a part of a personality. So what are the common symptoms of the anxiety when a person submits into the selection process? So there are basically these are the cognitive aspects of the anxiety that one individual feels: worry, irritability, fear of losing control, fear of failure, hypervigilant, thinking rigidity, memory problem, difficulty in problem solving, overreaction, and sometimes performance dip. Whenever a candidate is experiencing all these things, these are the common symptoms of anxiety related to the cognitive aspect of the personality. When there are the behavioral aspects also, a person starts feeling shy or withdraws, frequently asking the questions, need for assurance, rapid speech, excessive talking or a verbosity, restlessness, habit behavior, hair pulling or twiddling, impulsiveness. These are the behavioral aspects of the anxiety. Whenever an individual shows like this, that has to be considered experience of anxiety into the personality. And there are some physical symptoms also, like trembling or a shaking of hand or a legs, increased heart rate, excessive perspiration, shortness of breath, dizziness, chest pain or discomfort, flushing of the skin, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, muscle tension, sleep problem. So these are the symptoms of the anxiety when an individual submit oneself into the process of selection and experience all these things. So what is the role of personality in transition from student life and experiencing the selection process? First of all, we have to understand what is a personality. Personality is a dynamic organization within the individual of those psychophysical systems that determine characteristics, behavior, and thought. Each word in this definition has meaning. Starting from dynamic organization. It's not a passive thing. It keep on changing within the individual of those psychophysical, both internal covert and overt systems that determines the characteristics behavior. Characteristics behavior, that means every individual is unique and everybody has its own characteristics behavior and thought. So once we understand what is personality, then only we can see its role. One more definition of personality that was given by the Murray and Kluckholm. Personality is the continuity of functional forms and forces which are manifested through sequences of organized regnant process and overt behavior from birth to death. The very important definition of personality, it says that it is a continuity. Continuity of what? Continuity of functional forms and forces which are manifested through sequences of organized regnant process. Organized regnant process are called as a brain activity. Behavior through death. That means personality keeps on forming. It's not static. The personality is the strongest predictor of transition from student life to job applicant, with the traits like that a oriented or a visionary. Only this personality which predicts the transition from student life to job applicant in a smooth way. The starters, character, behavior. They are focused, determined to achieve the goal of the personality of those people which has the strongest prediction of transition. They shows the resilience, behavior, and the hardiness of the personality. Hardiness of personality is the commitment, challenge, and the control. They have a control over the environment in which they are living, and they keep on challenging the oneself against the environment, and they are very committed to the goal. Now we will discuss the axis of transitions are broadly divided into two. That is initiative, that is called as the beginning, and the temperament, the perspective. Again, divided into two broad category. There's a high activation and a low activation. High activation means a person shows manifestation of aroused, astonished, stimulated, surprised, and intense. That means the beginning is highly activated, and the beginning with the low activations suggests that tranquil, still, inactive, and the passive. So beginning can be of two types. Now we come to the pleasant, cheerful, warm-hearted, and pleased. The person who shows these type of, they have a pleasant temperament. Some people has an unpleasant temperament also. You can be very observant around your environment that you will find such kind of a people also. Those who are very unhappy, feel miserable, sad, grouchy, gloomy, and they are always in a blue. So these are the axes. Where do you belong in that axis? that you have to decide. Whenever you are initiating or the beginning, what kind of it is. Is it a high activity or with a low activation? Is it a pleasant one or an unpleasant temperament? Where you will fit into this axis, that you have to decide. Now we will come to the axis of transformation. Axis of transformation. With the axis of transition, there is a 4 combinations. Highly activation with a pleasant one, and the high activation with the unpleasant one, low activation with pleasant one, and low activation with unpleasant one. So these are the 4 combinations out of the axis of transition. These are made up of. When there is a high activation and a pleasant temperament, you will find these kind of people are enthusiastic, elated, excited, euphoric, lively, peppy. And you can see the combination of high activation but unpleasant temperament also. They remain distressed, annoyed, fearful, nervous, jittery, and anxious. When there is a low activation but pleasant temperament, then you will find the people are relaxed, content, at rest, calm, serene, at ease. And I will say worst is the low activation and unpleasant, that you will find the people are dull, tired, drowsy, sluggish, bored, and droopy. The high activation and the pleasant people who are in this axis, they can easily transform. And the difficult is the low activation and the unpleasant temperament. In between, these are the mediocre one, where you have to put in more of words to come up at the level of smooth transformation. So where you find yourself fit into these boxes, one has to realize, one has to get insight into the personality where I fit into that. And accordingly you choose the axis of transformation, and then after you can rate yourself on the 4 aspects of plan, adapt, affective, and dynamic. A person who is highly active and pleasant can plan, adapt, and he is effective in the group also, and he is dynamic. A person who is active, pleasant, unpleasant temperament can plan but not able to adapt, not effective also. And for dynamism, I will say 50 and 50. Sometimes it is dynamic and it is not. A person who falls into the category of low activation and a pleasant temperament, they find it difficult in planning. They can adapt, but their effectiveness is low, and their dynamism is also low. And for the 4th category, plan, adapt, effective, and dynamisms all are low. They find it difficult in all these 4 aspects. They are very difficult to transform. Now we will discuss what are the hurdles in the transformation. First of all, the goal setting. People don't realize what kind of a goal they are setting for themselves. Is it a realistic one or unrealistic one? Whether their goal falls into the fantasy level or wishfulness, or their goals are practical in nature. One has to identify that. Then there are various needs of a person. Need is a state of access deficit, or noxious stimuli present in the so one's behavior is always directed by the need. So one has to understand what type of a need that is dominant in oneself. And the defense mechanisms. Everybody employs the defense mechanisms. Defense mechanisms are the coping strategies to protect oneself. So what type of a defense mechanisms prominently employed by the person also decides that how the transformation will be there. We will discuss about the defense mechanism in the next slides. The dynamism. Dynamism, how much change and the challenge one can undertake, that decides the transformations. Adaptation, the sense of self and interpersonal relatedness. If these two things are low in one individual, that poses a great hurdle well-being of an individual. That means negative or a positive evaluations about one's life satisfaction. How a person evaluate one's life satisfaction, that poses a hurdle. These hurdles may be facilitators also accordingly. And lastly, I will say the style of learning and thinking. That means right or a left hemisphere brain dominance. Which part of the brain dominates in learning and thinking also decides the transformation. Now we'll discuss the needs. In psychology, there are many needs which are called as psychogenic needs, and these are shown in the foil, that ambition, materialistic, power, status, affection, and information. The need which is very prominent in one individual will choose career, will behave, and will transform accordingly. So one has to realize what kind of a need is dominant in oneself. Ambitions need are achievement, exhibition, and recognition. And those who are having the materialistic need, they shows the acquisition, retention, order, and construction more. Those who are power seekers, need for power is high, they shows the aggression, autonomy, blame avoidance, contrariance, deference, dominance, harm avoidance, and abasement. Those who seeks for status, they show the counteraction need, defendance in avoidance need. Affection needs, they are reflected by the need for affiliation, need for a nurturance, play, rejection, sex, and succurrence. And lastly, the information, need for cognizance and the exposition. These are the needs, psychogenic needs one has to realize. First of all, one has to understand that and realize that what are my needs which are prominently reflected into the personality. Then accordingly, the whole axis of transition and axis of transformation will work upon. Defense mechanisms. These are the complex emotional cognitive constellations to cope with intrapsychic conflicts. Whenever an individual want to achieve goal, there are many hurdles in achieving them. There are many conflicts one has to pass through. So for solving all these conflicts and saving oneself from the frustration, from the distress, one start employing these complex emotional cognitive constellations to cope with these conflicts, so that one can preserve one, identity. So these defense mechanisms can be categorized into the four categories. Some are pathological, immature, neurotic, and some are mature. So what kind of a defense mechanism one has been employing regularly and prominently in day-to-day life will decide that what kind of a transition or a transformation will be. So, so realize what kind of a defense mechanisms employed. Pathological are denial or a distortion or splitting. Immature defense mechanisms are one keep on fantasizing, externalization, acting out, idealization, omnipotent control, passive aggressive, rejection, and somatizations. I am again re-emphasizing that whenever a person is using frequently and predominantly, then only these defense mechanisms are categorized. Otherwise, don't consider yourself because everybody is using some one or the other kind of defense mechanisms in their life. But one should not be using one type of a defense mechanism predominantly, then it will become a hurdle. The neurotic defense mechanisms are displacement, dissociation, intellectualization, isolation, rationalization, reaction formation, regression, repression, undoing. I can explain all these terms to you, but this is defense mechanism is again a whole chapter into itself. So I am just introducing the concept to you, and you can further go or refer a book of psychology to understand that what is displacement, what is intellectualization, what is reaction formation, and accordingly you can make yourself aware. And the mature defense mechanisms are the identification, anticipation, sublimation, altruism, introjection, suppression. Each slide is a chapter into oneself. So I'm just introducing the psychological concepts. Now we'll come to the performance from the need, defense mechanisms, from the transition, transformation, and the role of personality, characteristics of selection process. From everybody, from all these things, one has to perform, and the performance has three major aspects. First is that it is a task performation. Whatever the task given to an individual, that has to be completed with a rational thinking and a logical reasoning, and a little bit of practical work sense has to be involved in that, in completion of the task performance. Then only we'll say that task is completed. When the performance is based on contextual only, that situation based, that this situation demands particular type of a specific behavior only. So performance sometimes are the contextual also. For example, I'm selecting for the armed forces. So we whenever the candidate or a job applicant is performing, so that context has to be kept in mind before selecting a candidate. So along with the task, the performance is contextual also. And the counterproductive performance. One has to erode this counterproductive performance, because a performance include task, contextual, and counterproductive also, because people wonder near and about the task and sometimes distracted from the focused goal. So these type of counterproductive performance has to be minimized. Finally, I will be discussing this emotional maturity. Emotionally mature persons have a better chance of getting selected because of their balanced personality. It is very important that one has to reflect or project that I am a balanced personality. And what factor which makes you imbalanced is the emotional. If one can control the emotion, then only the maturity comes out. So emotional maturity is the most important part of a job applicant that has been seen, observed, assessed by the assessors before selection. So these are the some characteristics of the emotionally mature person, that they appropriately response, they give appropriate response on the selection tools. The effective use of resources with logical reasoning. They always seeks for logical reasoning rather than emotional reasoning, and they use the resources effectively. They express in a coherent manner and they present their thought with ease. They exhibit sense of responsibility, that they are dependable and reliable to carry out the task. They are dutiful. They also reflect the qualities to influence and lead the people or lead a group for a common goal, for a common task. They possess resilient behavior that focus to achieve goals in the face of adversity. These are the some characteristics of emotionally matured persons. I'll give you a suggested reading. That's a paper published in 2020 titled as Emotional Maturity and Ways of Coping Among Job Applicants at the Time of Selection. It was published in International Journal of Indian Psychology, and that's a very recent paper written by myself and the colleagues. You can find my readings on my research papers on academia.edu or researchgate.net. Before ending this presentation, I want the students to go through a simple exercise that is known as self-description. One has to write down the opinions of elders, mentors, friends, self, and qualities like to improve or develop. I'll explain each. That whenever there are elders, that means the parents or the guardians are there at home, they keep on advising us that these are the strengths and these are the weaknesses of your personality, where you are lacking or where you are performing well. So what is elders' opinion about your personality, that you must write down how they feel, think about your personality. And you will find there is a mentor in your life. That may be a teacher, maybe a friend, or maybe a stranger, maybe an ideal person, maybe on online on a YouTube, etc., etc. Whosoever you find that this person is a mentor, you write down that how your mentor feels about you. If you are interacting with this mentor, the mentor will tell you the strength and the weaknesses of your personality. Third is the friend's opinion. Everybody has some friends. And friends are so frank that they tell on your face that these are the things I like in you and these are the things I don't like in you. So according to your friends, what is your personality? What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of your personality? What is their opinion? And the self-opinion. I consider this as the important one, that Nobody else knows better than you yourself. Who are you? What is your personality? How much insight you are having into your personality? What are the strengths and what are the weaknesses of your personality that you must write down? What is your self opinion about your personality? On a piece of paper, you take a 15 or a 20 minute to write down all these things and you analyze yourself that what is my personality? And lastly, you try to write down what are the qualities you want to improve or develop in yourself so that you become so and so in your future life, whatever you want to become. You write on a piece of paper, keep on reading that, keep on adding or subtracting the things, and you will find that transition and the transformation from student life to a job applicant will be a smoother for you. That's all for today. I hope that some insight has gone into your mind, especially to the students where they are heading for. Thank you from my side. Thank you.
If anyone have query, you can ask. We request you, please ask any query.
I will be glad to answer your queries. If anybody has, don't feel hesitant, you can ask.
Excuse me, sir. One
Yes, ma'am.
participant asked one query, sir. I think
Yeah,
you.
yeah. What is the query?
Yeah, can you elaborate that query, sir? You told develop confidence. Means how can we overcome with the fear of this public speaking?
Okay. Yeah, the public speaking. Actually, first of all, it is not a fear. It is lack of confidence, which is revolving around the brain and clouding the brain to or inhibiting the brain. So first of all, how this confidence can be acquired? This can be acquired by the intellect. You must have intelligence to deal with the situation. You must be aware about the surroundings and the topics on which one can speak. And secondly, you have to improve your power of expression. If you keep on hesitating or if you are not fluent also, you will lose the confidence. So these are the two important things one has to be kept in the mind. Along with that, you have to practice a lot of things with the groups, with the friends, and you have to be you have to be speaking extempore or in front of a mirror, and you have to be more expressive alone also. Self speaking, self talking, you have to employ that. then only you will be able to overcome that confidence. Confidence it's not an abstract thing. Confidence is a thing, a lot of courage into oneself. Don't don't feel dull and afraid of anything. Then only you can face the things. Adversities will always be there, and you should be ready to face the adversities. That is a confidence. And public speaking is also related to that. Don't have fear. It's a phobia, and these are unnecessary fears are called phobias. There should not be a phobias. You are underestimating yourself. That's why this fear is coming. So first of all, you bring your intellectual levels so high that you can speak or answer or argue, or you can defend your things comfortably, confidently.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One more query also, sir.
Yeah.
How can planning and organizing improve with confidence and initiative, helping in translating to job seeker?
Yeah. How can planning and organizing improve with confidence and initiative? Actually, it is vice versa. It is vice versa. If your planning and organizing are having the components of practicality and resourcefulness, these two components improves the confidence and the initiative of a person. One person is able to prioritize the things in a right direction and having a faith in one ability. So rather than planning and organizing improve, it is that these two components of the planning and organizing which boost the confidence and the initiative. If one is clueless, not able to plan, or remains a haphazard, then that person cannot have a confidence or an initiative to start the things. So it's better to have a logical reasoning and practicality in the planning with some resourcefulness. So it will improve the confidence and the initiative. I hope I have answered it well.
Okay, thank you, sir. We request the audience please ask any queries.
It's a good question that how to improve the mental maturity during the research life. See, research life is very tedious one. That one is discovering something, and one has to be very patient and systematic in the approach towards the findings, towards the systematic control of the variables, towards the design of the research. So a lot of hurdles come across during the research life, and it distracted sometimes because you are very imaginative also, and there is a doubt also that whether one is going in a right direction or in a correct methodology also, and without knowing that what will be the results. So one has to remain calm and composure under control. That will decide the mental maturity I would suggest that three aspects, as I have told you about the hardiness of the personality: commitment, challenge, and the control. One has to develop into personality. If you are determined, you have a lot of drive to go through, and with the determination and the resilient behavior, along with the buoyancy in the life. You have to maintain the buoyancy. You cannot keep on immersing into the research life all the day. One has to take rest also, one has to enjoy also. That also boosts the mental maturity. And 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 lastly, I will say that you interact with your friends more, made a good companionships, have a good experience and a good memories with the friends. That will improve the mental maturity during the research life.
Okay, sir. Thank you for useful and informative talk, sir.
Thank you, Subramaniam.
I hope this talk will be very useful to everyone to know one's personality apart from academics.
Sure.
This self-assessment test will be, I think it is very useful to know their personality individually.
Yes, definitely. Actually, this presentation is for getting an insight into oneself rather than it is a directing oneself.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. May I leave now?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Right. Thank you. Good evening.